colleagues and friends, it's a great honour for me to be here today, and I would like to thank the UN Joint Inspection Unit and the World Association for Sustainable Development for the opportunity to talk about knowledge partnerships in the private sector. It's particularly a great pleasure for me to be here because a year ago today, at this location, saw the formation of the Knowledge for Development Partnership, an INGO, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. As Professor McQuaid kindly explained, I have quite a number of hats. So I'm an academic, but also a consultant. But if you like, all of my work is really motivated by a desire to look at inequalities and disconnects in the system of knowledge for development. At the moment, my research at the Free University at Amsterdam is on the role of the private sector in knowledge brokering in international development. But I'm also the managing director for the Knowledge for Development Partnership. One of our main programs is the Agenda Knowledge for Development, which I'm going to be telling you about also. Okay, the research project is called The Unusual Sector, the Private Sector in Knowledge Brokering in International Development. And we're trying to develop new insights targeted to the domains of practice, policy, research, and the private sector. And it's called The Unusual Suspect because there's really a lot of research done already on the role of development policy practice and research in knowledge brokering, but actually very, very little at looking at the private sector. For example, the Overseas Development Institution in the UK has published hundreds of publications on research-based evidence, but actually very, very little on the private sector. And our project is based on two knowledge hubs, one in the Netherlands at the Free University and one in Uganda. And the Netherlands arm is focused on the 5 Dutch knowledge platforms, and the Ugandan arm will be looking at private sector partnerships in Uganda. And one of the first things we've established actually is that there's quite a different definition from looking from the Dutch perspective at the private sector than looking at the Ugandan sector, which has far more evidence of knowledge entrepreneurs. And we're taking quite a critical perspective on the private sector. And we recognise that the Joint Inspection Unit report is an excellent, nuanced understanding of the situation, makes very workable recommendations. But I think we all have to remember the private sector is not a magic bullet, and that we shouldn't forget that there are quite a lot of downsides, or there are some negative stories. You look at, for example, Big Pharma, powdered baby milk, and also some issues related to intellectual property, for example, commercial scientific publishing and the seed industry. And there are really, in development discourse, there are two approaches to the private sector, one fairly positive and the other fairly negative. And also, for a good understanding of partnerships, you really need to have a nuanced and detailed understanding of what the private sector is doing and the role they can play, and also, as one of the speakers talked about yesterday, the unique selling points. And the first part of this project, which started last September, has been a systematic review, and we have made some preliminary findings, and these have implications also for the Knowledge for Development Partnership, which I'm going to talk about now. The Knowledge for Development Partnership was formed, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, here last year, and it's an INGO located in Vienna. And we're supporting a knowledge partnership for inclusive pluralist societies, and much of our work is focused on the Agenda Knowledge for Development. And the Agenda Knowledge for Development has been created collaboratively over a 2-year period. and it was launched itself also at the Global Knowledge Partnership Conference in April 2017. Now, the Agenda Knowledge for Development is based on 13 knowledge development goals with 3 to 7 targets each, and in this sense it mirrors to some extent the Sustainable Development Goals, which it is designed to complement. And it also includes 73 individual statements from UN policymakers, academics, knowledge management professionals and students. And if you like, the motivation for the Agenda Knowledge for Development is very much looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, and our analysis is that there is actually not very much reference to knowledge in the Sustainable Development Goals, and when there is reference to knowledge, it's very much taking a scientific technical perspective and less of a pluralistic perspective. So this Agenda Knowledge for Development is designed to complement the SDGs. So the first knowledge development goals, the first 6, there are 13 in total. Goal 1 is the need for pluralistic, diverse and inclusive knowledge societies. And this includes people who are usually excluded, for example, people who are disabled, for example, or who are excluded due to a migration status. We also want people-focused knowledge societies where self-determination of the individual is really seen as very important. And my particular baby, if you like, is the need to strengthen local knowledge ecosystems and recognise fully their role that they play in international development. Goal 4 is related to the importance of knowledge partnerships. Goal 5, knowledge cities and rural-urban linkages, recognising the role that cities can play in their rural hinterland, and improve knowledge strategies in development organisation, because I think UN organisations and other development organisations really ought to recognise their impact on the wider knowledge development ecology. Okay, so the Knowledge for Development Goals 7 to 13, the capture, preservation and democratisation of knowledge, the need for fair and dynamic knowledge markets, the importance of safety, security and sustainability, and also the importance of legal knowledge, that legal knowledge and legal frameworks are the basis of good societies. Also the importance of improved knowledge competencies and knowledge work, and also that institutions of higher education should play an active role. And I think this is one of the areas, for example, that the Sustainable Development Goals, the main document transforming our world, doesn't focus on enough. I think universities are mentioned 2 or 3 times, where, for example, the private sector and business are mentioned more than 25 times. And also Goal 13, which is related to information and communication technologies for all, recognising, as people mentioned yesterday, that access to the internet is very important in a knowledge society so that everybody can contribute. We're actually working on a new edition of the Agenda Knowledge for Development, which is due to be published in May 2018, and it should be ready for the Nairobi Knowledge Week, which we're involved in. The original version of the Agenda Knowledge for Development included 73 statements, but actually we now have more than 120 statements. And in fact, on Monday I received the most recent statement from Robert Chambers. I don't know if you know him, but he's, I think, very esteemed professor at the Institute of Development Studies in Sussex. My invitation to all of you is, would you be interested to contribute a statement to the forthcoming edition? In it, you should include your vision of knowledge society or knowledge management for development. So really anything you're interested in related to knowledge. This could be the private sector, but also, for example, I think we don't have at this moment enough references to literature and the arts. It would be less than 500 words with a portrait photo, and the deadline would be 30th of April. And here you can see two of the statements, examples from two of the statements, Petru Dimitrio's statement, but also I've also included here as an example Suzanne Kinawuka's statement, and she's my research colleague at the Unusual Suspects, who's in charge of the Knowledge Hub in Uganda. So if you would like to contribute a statement, please contact me by email. The Knowledge for Development Partnership isn't doing this on our own. We have many partners and members, and we have quite a number of staunch supporters in this room. And we're working with IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and other UN organizations. And IFAD is very kindly publishing the new version of the agenda. And we're also contributing to the new UNKM network, which is a new fledgling network reminding, if you like, the UN organizations of Knowledge Development Goals 6 about the role of knowledge development organizations, if you like, in the broader knowledge ecology. Thank you very much for your attention.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.